Welcome into a brand new episode, crossover episode, Patriots Beat, Patriots Daily, coming to you on the second to last block ending practice of Patriots training camp. So it means second to last crossover show, at least of camp. Thank you, everybody, for your patience. If you've been watching the shows the last few days, you know Mike's computer freaking sucks, and he had to go find another one. We sent him out knocking door to door down his neighborhood, trying to borrow his neighbor's computers until somebody was finally kind enough to give him one. So if Mike, you better have a good show because we waited 8 minutes for you. So you got to make it worth the wait. It's Mike Kadlick and Tayler Kyles from Patriots Daily, Alex Barth, Hines from Patriots Beat. After the Patriots wrapped up practice 17 of training camp, as we're really starting to get to the end of this thing here, the big news really from the last 3 days, if you've been watching these crossover shows, we don't just do necessarily practice today, but the entire block of practices before the off day, is we thought on Saturday we were getting some major movement in the offense. It was a non-padded practice on Saturday. They moved some guys around. Some of that stuck throughout the next 2 days. Some of it didn't. Let's start at quarterback where it really didn't. Drake Maye got one drive late in Saturday's practice with the starting offense. It was a walkthrough. We haven't seen him back with the one since. Gerard Mayo did say today that there's a chance for Drake Maye to start week one, but in the same press conference, he also said it's very important for Drake Maye to get reps with the starting offense, so he's ready for that opportunity. Yet no such reps have occurred. So it still feels like Drake Maye's on the outside looking in. I am personally rolling out week one. I know Gerard Mayo said, I just don't think the time is there. Can he still close the gap between now and then? Yes. But I just don't think that the gap's going to be completely closed. You can narrow the gap, not close it. Although, Mike, because you brought this up on Twitter today, there is an interesting parallel. Finally, this is, everybody knows I've been the first one to come on here and say, it's not like 2021 because this. It's not like Mac and Cam because that. Maybe we got our first parallel to 2021 today, Mike.
Yeah, so when I was just a young whippersnapper, a young intern with the CLNS Media Network, I was around Patriots practice here and there alongside Evan and alongside Alex, and it was Mac's rookie year, and Cam Newton was the incumbent starter, like Alex just mentioned, and something that I noticed was anytime Belichick had the opportunity to, whether it was after they drafted Mac, whether it was during a good stretch of practices for Mac, or when it was, Cam Newton didn't look great, Belichick would always reiterate that Cam Newton's our starting quarterback. Cam's our starting quarterback. Cam's our starting quarterback. And then at one point in time, and it sort of aligned up with when Cam missed some practice when they went down to, I think it was when they went down to New York, or he was in New York, or something happened, and Mac had a really, really good training camp practice against the Giants. He completed like 20 passes of 25 or what have you, and I don't remember the exact statistics, but they came back from the Giants practice, and then the rhetoric changed, and Belichick was saying, well, we don't know who our starter is, and this is a competition. We're not going to assign any, or we're not going to name a starting quarterback yet. And so that kind of, that sounded the alarm bells in my head way back then. And so obviously what happened after that was, again, Cam had he left practice and what have you. And then Mac turned out to be the starting quarterback, and they cut Cam Newton. And so today, the same thing happened with Gerard Mayo, where throughout the summer and in the OTAs and all that, it was, and even Alex Van Pelt had said it as well, Jacoby Brissett's our starting quarterback, Jacoby's our starter. And then today, Mayo goes on the Greg Hill show and says that there is a chance Mac Jones can still start this season. And today, when asked, he said, we do not have a starter. We don't have a starter, and when I'm ready to name one, I will let you guys know. And so there is a parallel there, like you said, Alex, and it's also a parallel that it's coincided with the rookie quarterback having a stretch of really good practices. And I guess the difference here to me is that Mac Jones was seeing ones reps in practice, and Drake Maye has yet to actually do that. So they can say whatever they want, but until they actually show that it's a competition, I still think you're right in that it's going to be Jacoby at least to start the season. But there's clearly some momentum in the quarterback room, and it's coming out throughout Gerard Mayo, through Gerard Mayo's comments in the media.
I think there's one other difference too. One is that, yes, the rookie quarterback was getting one reps in 2021. Jacoby hasn't done anything. He's played poorly, but he hasn't done anything externally to lose trust of the team. Whereas Cam Newton left for a doctor's appointment And during the COVID year, you couldn't do that.
Sure.
Or it was 2021, but COVID rules at the time, you couldn't do that. You got a pseudo suspension and that accelerated things as well. But yeah, like I said, Gerard Mayo's talking like there's a quarterback competition, but we're not seeing any evidence of a quarterback competition. Tayler, are you buying it or no?
I kind of disagree with that. And I really don't want to put too much stock into like the offensive line rotations that we saw. And even the one time we saw him with the starting offense, it was a split field period where all the backups were on the other side. So literally there was no one to come in when Drake Maye was under center, but still it was a drive with the starters. And then this week, whatever the reasoning was, they mentioned that they wanted to, practice worst case scenarios because there were injuries to Nick Leverett and Calvin Anderson. It's like, okay, well then why is Layden Robinson playing left guard and City So is repping with Mac Jones? Like, I think these things may be intertwined. It's kind of hard to know where to draw the line where this is an offensive line experiment versus maybe they want to give Drake Maye more protection. But what's more telling to me is he's been repping with all of the top receivers. They're mixing in. It's not been 100%. But it felt like before it was more of like Jacoby Brissett would get some of Polk and then some of Baker. But now it's very clear that, especially with Drake Maye and KJ Osborne, they got a little connection going there. Like this is the third day in a row where they've connected on a corner route. And I thought that play was actually another example of why I like Drake Maye as a potential starter, because there was a coverage shift where the defense disguised as cover one, went to cover two, and Drake Maye usually would go underneath. Like you'd see him want to go deep, but he'd throw short. That was one of the first times I actually saw him try to attack the honey hole between the safety and the corner. So I think, like you said, he's stringing together good practices. They haven't been perfect. This offense is far from a finished product, but it does look better when Drake Maye's out there. And I think the fact that he is spending time with some starting caliber players is telling. And with the offensive line, I think that's also been a representation of, it may not make sense to us, but there is some kind of internal plan, and they're trying to see how these pieces fit together.
So you're buying Drake Maye still on the table week one?
Tough, but I think it's possible. Not likely, but possible.
You think the door's still open though? You see a path to that happening?
I think it really is competition, but I think Drake Maye is going to have to get to the point, like we already talked about before all this, where it becomes the point where the teammates are looking around like, we all love Jacoby, but Drake Maye's clearly better. Why is he not playing? Like I saw an argument about how, he's playing all these tough defenses, but he's going to learn through experience. Like Patrick Mahomes, he went on New Heights and was talking about Alex Smith and him being a young quarterback and how he learned. He mentioned how he had no idea how to handle those like blitz looks that Belichick always had, the 5-man fronts. He couldn't get it picked up. And Belichick forced him to figure out how to adjust. Now that was, a longer span, but it's the same thing where Drake is a quick learner. He's not really an air repeater, which Gerard Mayo said is the key for rookies starting. Put all those things together, I just don't understand why they would close off the idea of him potentially starting week one, especially because Brissett, he had one great play to Saquon Thornton, but other than that, he hasn't been that good.
Brian, how do you feel about how the coaching staff's handling your boy?
I don't love it. Like, I know Taylor just said, like, he's starting to get some time with more of those receivers, but I wonder if that's also just, like, they've lost some receivers the past few weeks, right? Like Juju's gone, Jaquay Jackson got hurt, so there's just all the tight ends are hurt. So now they're just mixing, like those guys have to take those reps. Someone has to take those reps. And I always just count first team reps as if David Andrews is snapping you the football, and that hasn't happened yet either. So I wanted to see him. I think he's earned the first team reps for a while here now, and it just hasn't gotten. They just haven't given it to him. So that's been kind of annoying that we can't get that evaluation. And I think the door probably still is slightly open that he starts week one, just because he's been playing so well, and on the opposite side Jacoby's kind of fallen back to earth. But you hear Gerard, even though he says it's still open, he said we had this plan set from the time we drafted him, and it might not be the most popular plan, and we're going to stick to that. So that kind of made me say, like, okay, they probably don't, that plan, if it's not popular with the fans, it's probably Jacoby Brissett. So I think there's still a chance, but it's very, very small. I would still lean Jacoby week one there.
All right, adding
before practice, the chemistry with all the quarterbacks did matter. Somebody asked him that before practice. I just want to say that was also why I started to look into it more than I have another practice.
You know what I'll add too? One more thing, Alex, before I
go for it. Yeah, go for it.
One more thought that I don't want to lose is something you always taught me was that Bill Belichick will always tell you the truth, right? It happened with the Jelani Tavai thing. It happened with us on Pat's Beat early on. Me and Taylor were talking about this morning that, that's something that's kind of been ingrained in my head. Anything Bill Belichick says, he either tells you the truth or he omits. like, he doesn't want to say anything, so he just doesn't say it at all. We don't know what Gerard Mayo's tendencies with the media are yet. So even if he says there might be a competition, that just might be lip service. So we don't know whether to actually trust that yet or not.
Yeah, well, Bill Belichick, if you look it up, he very, very rarely outright lied.
Exactly, right.
And it just so people understand that. And generally, if he said something, and maybe it could be interpreted a certain way, but there were very few things that he said that were just outright false. I count them on probably two hands, the amount of times that happened. I was covering the team. Me throwing on what is a useless qualifier on this show real quick. Brian, starting with you. Your thoughts on how Drake Maye's looked since the preseason game, since that second preseason game?
Very good. I think the words, Elliot Wolf said it. Gerard might have even mentioned it, like calm, confident. Seems like he's got a little more like swagger since that first game. And I know they didn't throw much today. I think each guy only had like 6 or 7 throws throughout. It wasn't much reps for the quarterbacks, but just continue to look impressive. Tayler mentioned he had another one of those, corner routes to KJ Osborne, which was more aggressive than he's been in the past. He had a really nice anticipation throw to Kayshon Boutte in the hurry-up drill, even though the hurry-up drill failed, and that's still the one thing you really kind of want to see from him. He hasn't had success in that part of practice where Jacoby Brissett, he led a field goal drive today, had the play of the day to Tyquan Thornton deep. So you haven't seen that success from May, and you'd love to see him try to do it with the starters and see if that can lead to more success. But, yeah, I think May's been really good and kind of brought that success from that first preseason game into these last 3 practices.
Taylor.
Yeah, I agree. And I will point out that it definitely hasn't been perfect. I think there were 1 or 2 throws this week where he probably could have been intercepted, like the one yesterday. Kind of forced it and went through Joe Giles Harris's hands. And both quarterbacks have had their shares of misses and miscommunications. That just comes back to the point that they're not ready yet. But yeah, Drake Maye still, you can see the growth. I think that's the most important thing. You can't expect him to ever be perfect in a practice. And I don't think he has been perfect in any of these practices. But you are seeing, he's the things that he's saying he wants to improve on, he's actually improving on in real time. So, that just kind of keeps stoking the fire for me of he's not hitting any kind of wall. It feels like this is just who he was at UNC, a quick learner who you want him to make mistakes because then he knows in those specific instances, I can't do that. I have to do this instead. So it looks like he's been doing that.
Mike, I'll just add that he definitely, what Brian said, looks a lot more comfortable. And I think pairing that with the fact that Brissett hasn't looked as comfortable lately is making Maye look that much better in the competition, right? Because you stack it up against, we can sit here and say, well, Maye looks good, Maye doesn't look good. But when you're thinking of he's in competition with Jacoby Brissett and is he ready to start? Well, if he's better than Jacoby, then he's ready to start. And I think the fact that Brissett's fallen off a little bit is helping Maye's case that much more.
And I think that's something.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Alex.
no, go ahead.
It's just with the receiver situation, because I've seen so much, and Mike, we've talked about this. This is why I brought it up. We've seen so much discourse about Jacoby looks skittish or he's late and all these things. I think when you see Jacoby, and it's in games, I don't think mentally there's really a problem. I think what I'm seeing a lot of is he's going 1, 2, 3 a lot, which tells you that his routes aren't open. And the fact that KJ Osborne's been repping more with, Drake Maye, I think part of that might be they're trying to get more juice in the offense with Polk, which is what I was asking for. I wanted it to be, maybe swap out Tyquan because I like KJ. But you're seeing there's more Polk. You're seeing in a lot of those critical situations, the 2 minutes, who is Jacoby going to most of the time? Pop. 90% of the time he's going to pop short underneath and dinking and dunking. The Tyquan thing was kind of an anomaly. I'm kind of losing my train of thought here. But yeah, I think that some of it is also the receivers and the talent that Jacoby's working with. Because he doesn't throw to Tyquan super often either. And really, it is kind of the pop show. So I wonder if, as odd as it is to say that with the starting quarterback, if kind of that's hindering his ability to perform as well.
I'll just say this. Jacoby Brissett coming back to Drake Maye. Remember at the beginning of camp, when everybody was freaking out about how wide the gap was between Brissett and Maye? Mm-hmm. And I said, it's not just about how bad Maye looks. It's also about how good Brissett looks, how over expectations he is. This is the reverse of that. The gap shrinking, not just because Drake Maye's playing better, but Jacoby Brissett's playing worse. But what's important to remember here is Jacoby Brissett playing worse doesn't make Drake Maye better. Mm-hmm. The Jacoby Brissett's level of play should in no way be a variable one way or the other in Drake Maye's development plan. That's just doing yourself a disservice. So
that's a good point.
As
they say, but what about the team? But it's about the team. It's not just about Drake Maye.
So winning the locker room is part of it. But I'm saying, Jacoby Brissett, we got to be really careful, and the team needs to be careful in that Jacoby Brissett being more erratic with the football doesn't make Drake Maye more accurate. You get what I'm saying? And I feel like some people can get lost in that. And that is where it gets tricky with the locker room coming in. But if you're the coaching staff, there is a tipping point there. You can't lose the locker room, but you also can't get bullied to putting the kid in if you don't think he's ready either. Mm-hmm. And there needs to be some give and take there. And I just think as fans and hopefully the team, and I trust the team to do this, fans, media, it's a little harder to not, look at the shiny jingling keys, but Jacoby Brissett being worse does not make Drake Maye better. Jacoby Brissett's ability and production should not be a factor in Drake Maye's development plan. Now, where the locker room stands, which maybe is impacted by their performance, that should have an impact. But
I think that'll coincide with him being good. Like, that's when everybody will see it.
It will and it won't. I mean, I think it will to an extent, but my point is, like, if Jacoby Brissett's playing fine, right? If he's playing okay, that's not a need to rush Maye if you don't think he's making the progress that he needs to make, right? It really comes down to when I'm trying to figure out how to phrase this, because you're right. Like, you can't, the locker room is a factor, but I think with Jacoby, I guess it's going to have to be pretty bad for him to totally lose the locker room like that. And I think in the amount of time it would take for him to lose the locker room, realistically, Maye should be ready at this point. This isn't me saying Maye shouldn't play it all this year, but I guess it's more 2 bad weeks of training camp from Jacoby Brissett should not change the plan for Drake Maye. And Albert Breer wrote this just before we came on, that
I was just going to go to this, Alex.
The Patriots weren't necessarily planning ever for Drake Maye to start week 1. Jacoby Brissett having a bad few weeks of training camp does not suddenly make Drake Maye ready for week 1, I guess is my point.
And Breer writes too that with, one component of starting Maye this early is the mental side. And can he go in and out, not in and out of the lineup, but if he hits, like, they need to be ready for him to, have a bad week or two. And how is he going to handle that? Where that's also part of the development plan, where if Brissett, like you said, Alex, isn't playing well and, fans are clamoring for Drake Maye and the team thinks Drake Maye could still be better than Jacoby Brissett at a time, and he's not where they want him at in this quote unquote development plan that they keep talking about.
And I'll say this, I think that one thing needs to be clarified. I don't think anyone is advocating to force him out there. Like, I think there are people.
Nobody here is. I think there are fans that believe that.
Yeah.
Okay, then that's kind of disappointing. Like, you got to get off that. I'm like, and you guys know, I've not been of the mindset that, like, he has to start week 1, because I think that's unfair. I think there's pushback against him playing at all. That's where I'm like, no. I think he's going to be ready at some point this year, because I think he's going, and that's why I just think that reps are so valuable, because he gets to learn on the fly and you can see the tangible improvement, but that can still happen to a degree in camp. But I completely agree. I don't want him forced out there. I don't want it to be, we got to start Drake Maye week 1, or to conform to fans because they want him because Jacoby's playing bad. But it's like, yeah, but Drake's not better either. It's like last year when everyone wanted Malik Cunningham against the Raiders. They got Malik Cunningham, and it was like, oh, right, he hasn't played. This is insane to expect him to be able to read a live NFL defense as a rookie. Like, no one wants that. It's never so bad that you ruin your future. That's what this year is about. And they even did say with Jacoby Brissett, like, Mayo was very adamant he could be our starter. He didn't say, bridge. He made sure to clarify he could have been a starter. So Breer's report makes sense. I kind of just come at it from a different mindset, because I've been saying, like, Maye can start as a rookie. You don't need to redshirt him. But again, bottom line, don't force him out there. I think that should never be on the table. I just think that'll happen sooner than maybe people expect, because they think he's not going to be able to handle competition. And that's Jacoby's asset as well. He can help him with that.
All right, so that's 20 minutes on something that didn't change. Let's get to something that has, which is the offensive line. But first, whoever's in charge of ads here, we'll hear from one of our friends.
It's game time, right? This is Pat's beat. Okay, I'm at a different thing. Real quick, I was going to.
It's the dog days of summer here in Boston, which means it's time to get to some games over at Fenway Park. This baseball season, I'm using Game Time to land my Red Sox tickets. Game Time is an authorized ticket marketplace in Major League Baseball, which means getting tickets faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to first pitch. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets. It's super easy. You just open the app, click Sports, and the games will be right there for you. Right now, you can get tickets to the Rollin' Red Sox for as low as $11. You can even buy parking for the game and check out your seat view right in the app. With Game Time, you can save up to 60% by buying last-minute tickets for sports, concerts, comedy shows, theaters, and more. Get the lowest price guaranteed, or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Take the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CLNS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed.
Rolling Red Sox might need to update that read, but that's another conversation for another time. How do we get this?
I got it.
All right. Offensive line. We did see some changes on the offensive line today. It was still the same group to start. That is left to right, Vidarian Lowe, City, so David Andrews, Mike Onwenu, Chuks Okorafor. But at times, including in a 2-minute drill, there were changes, namely 2. The rookies got their shot. Caden Wallace stepped in at left guard for City, Layden Robinson stepped in at left guard for City, so Caden Wallace stepped in at right tackle for Chuks Okorafor. So the core right now of the offensive line seems to be Vidarian Lowe at left tackle. I guess that's the one they're not touching for some reason. David Andrews at center and Mike Onwenu at right guard. Outside of that, we're waiting on the rookies. Taylor, I know you have some thoughts on this, including I was alerted to this today. Did you suggest the other day on a show Chuks Okorafor may not make the team?
Oh,
Yeah.
No, kind of, but it was more just because when he was with the Steelers, he said he wouldn't have resigned if he knew he wasn't going to start.
Okay, all right.
It was like,
so I
had the caveat would be because he wanted to be cut, not because they don't have the depth. They can't be just cutting.
Yeah. No, that's actually a really good take, and that would bring a question kind of as we go to the offensive line here. Well, if he's going to shoot because he shot his way out of town in Pittsburgh. That's why he got cut. Shot his way out of town. If you're not going to start him, is he going to shoot his way out of town? Because you kind of can't afford him to do that. So what I hadn't seen Okorafor say that. Like, this is me getting this information live. Very interesting. If this guy can't be here, if he's not starting, and like you said, they need the depth. So what did you think of the rotations today, Taylor? And I'll add this question because we haven't even discussed this off the air. This is me genuinely asking, learning in the moment. I'm genuinely curious. Can they afford to not start Chuks Okorafor on the risk that they lose him?
Yeah, I was thinking about that. I'm like, man, you're really playing with fire there. And like Caden's under a contract for 4 years. Like, he's not going anywhere. I'll start with guard, though, because I've really been paying so much attention to the passing game and the quarterbacks and everything. Yep. City so sneakily has not been great run blocking in the preseason. Like, he's had some pretty ugly losses. So I was wondering, he's been like Layden and him have been rotating more so than Caden and Chuks. Caden and Chuks in the 2-minute drill, like that was something that really stood out because it's like, oh, now it's not just the rotation. You're specifically putting him in a critical situation. Layden, it feels like they're trying to actually see if he can start, which makes sense. I just thought they'd put him at right and then kick Onwenu out to right tackle. But even then, you're stuck with another, like, what do we do with Chuks conundrum? Because Layden Robinson's been damn near, I don't want to say perfect. No one's perfect. But he's been very good. Like, there's not a whole lot that I could really critique when I went back and watched him. So I understand why they want him there. With Chuks, we've mentioned it. He gets no push in the run game. Like, he's fine as a pass protector. There were a couple of times that a guy's gotten like right around him, which you don't love to see. But I think other than that, like for a guy that you just want as a bridge 1 year, he's fine. But the push next to Onwenu is obvious. Like, Onwenu's churning the gap open, and then he's just kind of standing in place, and the guy still makes the tackle because he hasn't gone anywhere. Whereas Caden Wallace, one of his assets is that he is a big, powerful guy, and they both have that really aggressive mentality. So, oh, man, I mean, you can afford to lose Chuks if he's not playing well enough. You know, like if your rookie is that good, then he's going to start for you. And, you know, Chuks doesn't want to be a backup, so let him go not be a backup somewhere else. You have your starter. But yeah, it's an interesting situation because it feels like a little bit of I mentioned it in my quick thoughts. It's a little rookie revolution here because Jalen Polk has been the Z over KJ Osborne in 2 straight end of half situations, which last year we saw with Pop when he was playing over Juju, even though Juju was playing like most of everything else. And it was like, this doesn't feel like a coincidence. So, you know, that's my take.
Yeah.
Brian, how do you feel?
I mean, I like Wallace next to Onwenu for a lot of the reasons Tayler just said. I know we talked about this when we were doing a show. Like the push in the run game is noticeable, and just you're playing another rookie. You're getting a rookie experience. Like that's this draft and develop plan where now you have maybe a full season of film on Caden Wallace at right tackle, and now you plug in Will Campbell at left tackle, and you have your tackle. So, Chooks is on a 1-year deal. He's not going to be in the long-term plans, might not even be in the short-term plans. Now, that would be kind of scary if he's just like out. And now, I mean, who's your number 3 tackle? Because Calvin Anderson's hurt. Chooks is gone. Is it Kellen Dyche is your 3rd tackle? That's not a
Denard, is that his name? The guy who just got cut.
Oh, Dennis Daly. Who?
So somebody asked about him.
Gave up the most sacks in football 2 years ago, and then kicked inside the guard last year. So
do you want the numbers real quick while we're on this?
Sure.
So last year he only played 140 snaps as a backup guard. He got moved inside. Last full season of tackle, 2022 in Tennessee, 15 starts, 52 pressures, 12 sacks, 7 penalties, and 900 snaps.
Yeah, that's not great, boys. I'll pass.
I'm good on that.
No, this really is exactly what happened with Andre Dillard, where everyone was like, oh my God, the Titans got him. The Patriots are so stupid. And he literally allowed like way more sacks than anyone else, and they were all terrible.
So this is, I think, what I'm worried about on the offensive line, more so than like the first 5 out there, is that the depth still isn't there. And like, yeah, they hit rock bottom last Tuesday in their practice, and everybody kind of agreed. And they've sort of slowly climbed back up. They had the good showing on Thursday night. The quarterbacks only got sacked 1 time. And it's turning into, well, did everybody overreact to Tuesday? But at the end of the day, like Nick Leverett still is not out at practice right now. It's now August 19th. Brian, you mentioned Calvin Anderson is not out there. Like they don't have the depth that they also didn't have last year. And I think the reason they were so bad along the offensive line last year was that they had injuries every single week. They had to rotate guys in and out. Cole Stranger's in, Cole Stranger's out, Onwenu in, Onwenu out. And that's why they performed so poorly last year. And it's looking like they're going down that same road right now. So, I mean, also, whatever offensive line combination they decide on, they need to get it together sooner rather than later and stick to it. And I know that Mayo said before camp started that they want to get it done. I think by the end of the 2nd preseason game was his
before the start of the 3rd. He said both.
Kind of switched today. He said we'll figure it out after this preseason game.
Yeah,
so they're pushing that deadline back a little bit now.
Exactly, and they're doing a lot of rotating still. You mentioned it, where the 2 rookies are getting in, which I think ultimately is good that they're going to give the rookies a chance. But it's getting close to the regular season where you kind of need to cement this thing down. So as much better as it's looked over the last, what's today, Monday? So over the last week, it's gotten better. I'm still concerned about the product overall.
I will point this out, and it's not an apples to apples situation, but remember, was it Jordan Devy? It was like 65 and 24.
The Tuba player.
Yeah, like the Patriots aren't exactly new to going into the season and not really having things figured out. Like Belichick was notorious for basically using September to mess with new rotations and see what works. And I think the good thing is like depth. Yes, they don't have great depth, but Mike, we talk about this, I feel like every day in the car. The reality in the NFL is no one has good depth.
Yeah, right.
They just played the Eagles, and Keon White had a sack that was so easy, he didn't even want to take credit for it. He was like, yeah, I didn't really have to do much. Like, there's not a lot of teams that have a 3rd tackle that they would ever want to put out there. So, there's a certain level of this. And like last year, people don't really talk about the injury situation. It's just like, oh, Bill was so bad putting the offensive line together. And he could have done better for sure. Mm-hmm. But guys kept getting hurt. It wasn't like, oh, if they went and got Orlando Brown or whatever, they would have been better. What if he got hurt? Then you didn't have anybody. You know what I'm saying? So I think that people need to just kind of understand the unfortunate reality is that if one of your starting offensive linemen is hurt, really bad. Like it's just so hard for these guys to get continuity or to stay healthy with the nature of their position. So just want to throw that out there. But if they're still experimenting into the season, Mayo setting a deadline is going to make it look worse for sure. And he invited that, and that's maybe going to be another learning experience. But like they have talent at the top. I don't think they're severely lacking. Like the interior is good. You got young guys that can play. They just need to figure out who is best where to maximize that talent.
Yeah, I'll say I wouldn't be surprised if Bill used to do this. Like this is how we found out about Mike Onwenu. The first couple games of the year, there's 1 or 2 guys that they rotate on the offensive line. The difference is You don't necessarily have the margin for error you used to. They may not care if this is a bridge year. That's the reality of it. But it goes back to something we were talking about before. If you're going to be rotating the offensive line, I'd rather be rotating it in front of Jacoby Brissett than in front of Drake Maye. Let Brissett take the hits. It's one last thing Maye has to deal with. And I'll end with this here on the offensive line. Taylor, start doing your homework when the college show comes back. Will Campbell, Calvin Banks. You're only solving this thing long-term through the draft. That's the reality of it. And they're just going to have to figure out a way, like you said, Taylor, to get through this year.
I noticed Will Campbell a lot, actually, watching Jaden Daniels. Because I remember I was like, this guy's stance, he looks like he's stiff because he kind of like stands. He's like, it's very linear and it looks a little odd. And I remember just being like, he never gets beat. This is crazy. So I'm familiar with his game vaguely. But hey, man, if they get a left tackle and you don't have to worry about it for the next 4 or 5 years, I'm not going to complain. Do not care. Like at this point, I'll take the tackle over the receiver because I'm so sick of having this freaking conversation.
Correct. And I'm with you. And I think we're going to have to unite on that throughout the year because Luther Burden, Tet McMillan, even James Pierce, who's an edge rusher, they're going to tempt a lot of people. Those are sexy, big-time positions, and those are guys that make highlight plays. Don't lose focus on the big picture. Tackle.
Or Travis Hunter.
It's the long torso.
I'll add one more thing.
Yeah, he's built weird. Yeah, Brian.
On the offensive line, because
I was going to say any other offensive line.
Hammering this point home that Charles Turner should get more looks at center. And someone finally asked Gerard Mayo today, and he said we feel better with the group that we have, which not great if you're Charles Turner, I would say, because the group you have can't snap the ball. So I don't think we're going to get those Charles Turner looks at center.
Start doing the dead ball snap like the Chiefs are doing now.
Yeah,
that's the way to go.
I love that. That's a former quarterback tweet right there.
because then there's no spin on the football, and you don't have to find the laces as hard. It just comes at you nice and soft, and you catch it, find the laces, and go. I love it.
I don't think we had a fumble on their 10 dropbacks today, though. So there's
no. All the snaps were good today. We'll see how much longer that lasts, but all the snaps were good today. All right, Mike's going to tell you about our friends at Prize Picks, and then we got some other things to get to.
Yeah, hopefully my mic lasts for this one because Prize Picks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active users. It's the easiest and most exciting way to play sports. Unlike other apps on Prize Picks, it's just you against the numbers. All you have to do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections to watch the winnings roll in. Get in on the daily action with your friends and become part of the Prize Picks community today. You can win 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 picks, turning $10 into $1,000. Sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even have to win. Just receive the $50 bonus guaranteed. Think Tyreek Hill will get more than 90.5 yards in week 1? Aaron Jones, more than 66.5? Cook up hot takes with your friends and win real money this fall season when you and your crew run your game on Prize Picks. It's the best way to win real money. Which players are going off, which ones aren't? Make your picks in less than 60 seconds and turn your sports opinions into real money all season long. So head over to Prize Picks today. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code CLNS for a first deposit match bonus up to $100. That's code CLNS on Prize for deposit match bonus up to $100. Prize Picks, run your game.
By the way, if you guys are upset with Mike for his mic, you're not the only people upset with Mike. He dropped a field goal today. We were standing behind the goalpost.
Big moment.
And he'd been waiting all camp, and now there's no fans, and he dropped it. And we legitimately heard players on the field booing him, multiple players on the field booing him. So that happened. Yeah. We'll get to the kickers, though. I want to talk about the wide receivers, and I want to start with one specific wide receiver. Taylor, I know you have some takes on the rookies, but I want to talk about Tyquan Thornton. Tyquan Thornton had a good start to camp, got hurt. We weren't sure. We were like, is this where it falls off the rails? And look, I don't think he's necessarily done a ton since he came back from that injury, but they are repping him like a player they plan to have on the roster. They are not even repping him like a bubble player. They are repping him like a guy that they have plans for. Makes me nervous. Not necessarily because I think he's bad, but you can't count on having him, even if you keep him on the team with his injury history, but he's going to be here. He's going to be a part of this. They've made that clear. And I don't know why it stood out to me so aggressively today, but they give him the veteran treatment in the preseason game.
Yep.
He's repping exclusively with the ones today. He's going to be here. He's going to be here, Mike.
I was just going to mention you stole my point there with the preseason games where he has been with the ones in the preseason, both games. He hasn't had many targets. I think he only has 1 or maybe 2 targets throughout the 2 games. But he's out there, he gets his run, and then he leaves and he sits down because he's not in a competition. And when we outlined this room throughout camp, we talked about how there's Demario Douglas, Demario Douglas, Jalen Polk, and Javon Baker as sort of the locks, and how everybody else behind them is in competition. And now I think you can put Tyquan right in there with the locks. He was the first guy they went to today on the 2-minute drill. He beats Christian Gonzalez on a go route and hauls it in. And so I think that the issue here is the injuries that you mentioned, Alex, where if he's on the field, he's gonna at least get open, and now he has to actually come down with the ball because there was a couple drops in his pass over the last couple seasons here. But I think you're right. I don't see a situation, barring injury, that he doesn't make the team. And Tayler, I think we both did it after preseason game number 1, where he had been hurt during camp and he ended up going out there and playing. But we were both like, he's probably going to start on IR just like he has the last couple seasons. But he hasn't. He's been out there ever since then. He hasn't missed a practice yet, and I think he looks pretty good from what we've seen so far.
Tayler, you got any hope for Tyquan Thornton this year?
Yes. Well, for him to stay on the field, I'm keeping my expectations tempered. But I'm just very happy for him, honestly. He's missed minimal time, and he's, gone strong to this point, which is awesome. I also think when it comes to his standing on the roster, it's very important to understand the context of that X receiver spot. For some reason, this team will not put Jalen Polk at X. I thought that maybe the best rotation might be Polk at X with Osborne at Z and then pop in the slot. But I also understand Polk's skill set isn't really a true X. Like, I do get it. But I don't think Tyquan's is either, which is odd.
What about Baker?
Well, Baker's not. They can't rely on him right now.
That's fair. Okay, that's fair.
Like, he's so raw right now.
I was hoping he'd be the X, but you're right. He hasn't played at that level.
I was hoping the same thing, dude. I wrote like 2,800 words on why he was going to be a receiver by the end of the season. And then you got Jalen Reagor, who we all know he's there to be a special teamer. He can be an X when you need him to, but outside, it's kind of like Tyquan, where it's like maybe a slant here and there, a go ball, and they take the top off, but that's really what you expect. You'd like a more well-rounded X, but like Mac Jones made it this entire rookie season with Nelson Aguilar literally only running goes and hitches. If you think I'm exaggerating, I'm not. I think he had like 2 or 3 other targets on any route that wasn't that. It was crazy.
He was running wind sprints.
Yeah, and it feels like that's what Tyquan's going to do, because in practice, it's not like he's this high-volume target. It's why everything he does feels magnified. Like, I still remember the drop where the pass was kind of behind him and Darius Slay broke it up. And it stuck with me because it was one of the only times he'd really made a mistake, but he also hadn't done it much, like, really good either. So, yeah, I think he's a lock to make the roster because clearly they like his talent. Just don't know if that's the best case scenario right now. I mean, I guess for them it is, but I don't know if it's ideal because he feels kind of one-dimensional.
Brian.
Yeah, I mean, if you want someone to just run go balls, like Tyquan's got the best skill set out of anyone on this roster to probably do that, right? With that 4.2 speed to really stress the defense vertically like that. And we saw it in the first preseason game. He maybe his best route as a Patriot, and Jacoby kind of underthrows him. And then today they finally connect in practice, and Jacoby even I thought I overthrew him, and it's hard to overthrow a guy like Tyquan Thornton, right? Like that's one of the things with that 4.2 speed. So I think there is a role kind of for him, but now it's the big thing: can he stay healthy once he finally starts, taking some real hits in NFL game action?
A lot of conversation out of Washington. We'll address this because I don't think we've all talked about it together. Jahan Dotson might be on the outside looking in there. So we know under Bill, they'd make that move 10 times out of 10. It was Corey Coleman. It was Laquan Treadwell. It was Jalen Reagor. You could argue that they keep getting closer, right? Corey Coleman was here for like 2 weeks. He sucked. Treadwell actually played in a few games. He didn't really do anything, but he got into games. Reagor, serviceable player. So now maybe you get like a starting level player in Treadwell, and then the next one, you get a starting level player in Dotson, and then it's the next one that you actually hit on the star when they sign Quentin Johnston in 2 years. He comes here and breaks out, but I don't know. Like, I'm not against it. I think you talk about a guy that can be an X. I think can be an X if they need. No, you don't think so, Taylor?
No.
It's been a while since I've really watched a ton of him.
I just pulled up his
college, but
I pulled up his snaps last year. He was 550 out wide, 350 in the slot. So he was out wide mostly. But
I think he's more like a Z type.
Z,
like it's not like wide out the numbers. I wish PFF had better distinctions of like what wide means, because wide is rarely in the numbers.
He's also a guy who just hasn't been a bust yet either. That group of guys you've talked about are like pretty much busted in the NFL, where Dotson just like this is his third season. He was good his first year, I'm pretty sure. I think he might have got hurt at some point. And then last year just kind of fell out of I don't even know if he fell out of the rotation.
Nope.
I will say,
Mike.
Brissett, you lose me?
You're back. You're back.
Okay. Brissett played with Dotson last year. That might help their cause a little bit.
That's a good point.
Oh, I'm thinking of Josh. When I said X, I was thinking of Josh Doctson, if you remember him.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, that's totally fair.
He was also a Washington.
Right. He was also in Washington. I think he was either a first-round pick or a first-round pick. He was more of a true X. Dotson, Dotson, I don't know. Like, I feel like they need to take as many shots at this as they can. And he's a guy, people ask me why he struggles. And look, I haven't watched Washington regularly enough. Maybe one of you feels like you can give a better answer. I'll tell you this, though. He certainly has been helped by his quarterback play. If you talk about some of those other guys, Jalen Reagor was playing with good quarterbacks. Laquan Treadwell had decent quarterback play. I don't remember who. Corey Coleman was just bad. Well, actually, he was drafted by the Browns, right? So he didn't have a good quarterback. I don't even remember who his quarterback was, but I feel comfortable saying that if he was drafted by the Browns. Dotson, Coleman, he was drafted by the Browns. Then it was the bad Josh Allen Bills for like a preseason, and then he got here.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
I paid
a little bit too much. I paid a little bit too much attention to Jahan Dotson since he got here because I drafted him in my dynasty league. So he's a guy who I'm like, oh, okay. So I'm looking at his game log now, and he started his rookie season hot, got hurt, was decent towards the end, and then again, like I was saying before, last year didn't have much help at all at the quarterback position. So it's only year 3. He's only 24.
Does he return kicks? Because I was gonna bring this up, and Los brings it up. Like, who does he push out? Like, is it Dotson or Kayshon Boutte, or if he returns kicks, does he push out Jalen Reagor? I don't think he returns kicks. I mean, he might be able to do it, but
probably Kayshon Boutte, I would think, right?
And I don't think that would be smart because they play different roles. Like Boutte can actually play outside and give you something there potentially. Dotson, I think, is more the kind of guy you want in the slot or like in a bunch, like kind of like Pop.
Any thoughts on the rookie receivers from the last week?
Still nothing from Javon Baker. It's been really disappointing. And then Jalen Polk, also quiet, but he's been repping with the ones pretty significantly. It feels like they want him to get very comfortable there.
Yeah, I'm just happy just happy they're playing Polk more. That's a big thing with them.
You can tell that they don't have as much, not confidence, I don't want to say that, but Baker has fallen off, and Taylor, you pointed it out today where he was repping with the threes at one point. It's not like he's not going to make the roster or anything, but it's clear that Polk's with the ones, Baker's with the threes. They're at different levels and how soon they're going to play in their rookie season, I think.
Yeah.
All right, tight ends. Austin Hooper is back today, but he was limited. Hunter Henry's still out. Mitchell Wilcox is still out. Felt like a great chance for Jaheim Bell or even Michael Petway to grab a spot, make some noise. I know Bell had a good day yesterday. Didn't feel like he followed up today. Had one catch, also had a drop. Not much from LaMichael Petway. I still think they're looking for a tight end. Week from tomorrow. I still think they're going to be looking on the waiver wire for a tight end, Taylor.
Yeah, 100%. Jaheim Bell, I just don't think he's ready to play. I think maybe he gets a Foxboro flu or something because I don't think he's going to survive the practice squad. He's too athletic. I think teams with roster spots would take him on as a project. But yeah, he shouldn't be on a field in live action. Yeah, LaMichael Petway, not really showing you much. Mitchell Wilcox wasn't there, but I still don't even think he has a good chance to make the team. It's the same situation that we walked into when all these guys went down. Things are scary.
Brian?
Are we just worried about Hunter Henry here? Because, I know Mayo said earlier it wasn't long-term, and then he said today he thinks he'll be here for week 1 after saying on the radio this morning that the tight ends will be ready to go relatively early in the season. And then Austin Hooper was out there today. Mitchell Wilcox wasn't there, but he was like working out on the lower field. So the only other tight end is Hunter Henry. And if he's relatively early in the season, maybe be there week 1, like that's kind of worrisome because you would hope Hunter Henry is out there. So yeah, they're going to need a tight end. I don't know how Peyton Hendershot's doing this preseason, if you're up to date on his stats, Barth. But yeah, that tight end room has taken a hit.
Maybe they make Chooks a full-time tight end. He played as an extra tight end for the Steelers.
There we go. I'll just say at least Austin Hooper was out there in pads today. Now, he didn't participate, but that's a good sign that they at least have him out there stretching. Looks like he's, on the mend a little bit from his injury. But, Barth, you had mentioned that you were kind of behind the 8 ball on Tyquan Thornton. You had him out of your last roster projection. Yeah. You were way ahead of the tight end thing. In your first projection, I think you had them signing a guy off the street, and it looks more and more like that's going to be the case now because you're right. They need help in that room, not just because of injury, but because of the third tight end position being so weak.
All right. So I just pulled up a list here. This is from this is from before camp. Oh, no, that's from before camp started last year. We're not going to use that one. I'm trying to find they have those lists of around the league guys who get cut. All right, here's one from before camp started. Let's see what tight ends are on here. Anybody tell me if you're interested in any of these guys. We've got this is bad radio, and there might not even be any tight ends on here. There's Bailey Zappi.
Someone just brought up Isaiah Likely in the chat, who I love, but I don't know why Baltimore
I would take Isaiah Likely, yeah.
I don't know why they'd get rid of Isaiah Likely.
I don't think they are.
Mark Andrews got in a car accident,
awesome. I love Isaiah Likely.
Yeah.
I've seen some people say the Chiefs have too many tight ends. Not the Chiefs, sorry. The Colts have too many tight ends. And they're going to have to cut somebody.
The Colts love tight ends.
They have a ton of pass catchers, but they they 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They have 7 tight ends.
I said the Colts love tight ends.
You weren't kidding. I didn't know it was 7. So they have. I mean, they're probably not going to cut Mo Alley Cox, right?
No, I would take Jelani Woods.
I take Jelani Woods. Eric Tomlin's a Patriots legend.
The Miami kid, right?
Yeah, yeah. Miami. I think we drafted him 15 times that year, Alex, on Pat's beat.
What's up?
I think we drafted Will Mallory.
No, you're thinking of Zach Kuntz.
Oh, that's right too. Yeah, okay.
Some people have said he might be the odd man out in New York, but Colts definitely a team to watch when it comes to tight ends.
Did Philly have
any other thoughts on the? Not really. They had a lot of tight ends, but those guys were
Philly had Jelani Jenkins. Wasn't he good for somebody?
He got hurt in that game, I think, pretty bad, right?
Oh, did he?
They have CJ Uzama listed as their 4th. Albert O down the depth chart.
I would take Albert O.
Yeah.
See, that's Goddard, Jenkins. Oh, I think EJ Jenkins got hurt. Is that who we were just talking about? Yeah.
I think Ogletree for Pat stats. I think Ogletree is their 3rd tight end. With the Colts, they're keeping their 3rd tight end.
Yeah, they're going to keep those guys. All right, let's. We have no more breaks left. Defense. Let's talk about the defense. Christian Gonzalez got beat by Tyquan Thornton today. It's kind of another example of him getting beat. Anybody nervous about Christian Gonzalez?
I'm not sounding the alarm yet. We're fine. Get him in the game. I think he's a gamer. I don't. It's almost like I don't even want to talk about it until it happens in a game. And there's not a ton of tape on him to say that it's a fact that he's going to be locked down. But I think we saw enough last year to at least give him a chance to say, hey, look, let me get into the game action and really pull this thing off. I think he's fine.
Anybody else worried? No.
I'm not going to be the one who goes on record as being like, oh, Gonzo, bad summer. Should we be worried? I'm not going to be that guy.
All right. How about up front? Anybody worried about pass rush? Josh Uche hasn't practiced since he played deep into that game against the Eagles. Not that their pass rush was helped by losing Matthew Judon. It wasn't. That definitely hurt it. But you lose Josh Uche too. Now, look, I think Deatrich Wise is a good player. I think Keon White's a good player. But those are power rushers. Those are guys that have one skill set and they're very good at it. But you don't necessarily have that pin your ears back and go kind of athletic win multiple ways rusher. We all hope Keon White becomes that guy, but he's probably a year or two away from that, even still with a positive summer. Anybody have any theories on what's going on with Josh Uche? I know maybe he's just hurt, but we didn't see him get hurt in that. Taylor, you're the sleuth. You found O'Shane Zannis' injury last night. So maybe you go take another look for Josh Uche, but he plays really late into that game. Mayo says it's not about the scrum he got in practice, and we haven't seen him since.
So
they need
he
this
also
guy.
went on the radio today, for what that's worth.
Did he say anything? I'm trying to remember. He didn't say anything.
I didn't listen to the interview, but he was thrown into the mix on Patriots Monday over at the station that shall not be named. So, I mean, he's in the building. They're putting him out there as, they do their head coach, the quarterback, and they do I guess, tentpole players, if you will, to go on the radio every week with EEI, and he wasn't there. So, I mean, he was there, excuse me. They put him out there. So it might just be an injury.
So Uche's last play was the 4th and 1 stop where they fumbled and nothing happened.
The tush push?
Yeah. Literally he finished the play like this. So I don't
Maybe he hurt his finger. Maybe he was showing the trainers he hurt his finger.
Well, he was limited earlier in the summer, but then if he's going through something, why is he playing into the third quarter?
Right, exactly.
It's just weird. So
if it wasn't for that game, I'd just say, oh, he's hurt.
Yeah.
But it feels like.
But if he's on the bubble, then they're gonna hold him.
I think he's too cheap to be on the bubble.
He can't be on the bubble, yeah. And they don't. They have to keep a certain number of edge rushers. At a certain point, you're not going to have guys left.
Right.
Oh wait, he was at practice today, as a spectator. Ian Steele from ABC 6 has a picture of him. He was a late arrival in shorts. And he had looks like he has a ankle brace on his left ankle. You can see
so
him
maybe
there.
he did get hurt.
Okay.
So that was from today. So I guess good for us for figuring that out.
Well, look, that's not a guy. We just did this with Hunter Henry, right? He may not be able to start this season. We're talking about if Hunter Henry's not ready. You're talking about need to add a third tight end. If Hunter Henry's not ready to start the season, they absolutely need to add a tight end. Absolutely. They might need to add a pass rusher if Josh Uche is not ready to start the season.
And Zannis.
Zannis is banged up too, right? That's my thing. They just don't have enough pass rushers.
Well, one of my points after the preseason game was one of my 5 thoughts after the game on CLNSmedia.com was that they didn't skip a beat when they lost Matthew Judon because they had 8 sacks and Uche was in there and Zimenez obviously and Wise and Keon White. But now if they're all going to get hurt, then we're right back to the drawing board. And, if Zimenez has been awesome, but, if he's not healthy, then it's going to be interesting.
Any hope there, Taylor? Maybe something they can scheme up, something like that, or are they just going to get no pressure this year?
They've already said that they're going to rely more on line games. It's going to be more like the dynasty era fronts where they didn't have that main Trey Flowers. I think it's kind of understated how good their linemen were one-on-one. Trey Flowers is obviously dominant, but a lot of their success was Kyle Van Noy and Dante Hightower and Jamie Collins on blitzes and stunts and things like that. So that's probably your best case scenario. Luckily, edge is a deeper position than tackle. So some guys are probably going to shake loose when cutdowns happen. So you may be able to pick some guys up if you really need them, but still they're going to be coming into the system where, you still got to get them along. You have no idea how, especially the chemistry on those line games. Cause frankly, against the Eagles, I didn't think the chemistry looked very good. I don't think it looked very good last year when they tried their line games. That's why Barmore being good was huge because they couldn't even manufacture pressure outside of blitzes. Also blitzes, I guess they could do that as well. Simulated pressures and things like that, but it's going to be tough. Football's a game of attrition. A lot of the times, not that this is a good team necessarily, but good teams sometimes have bad years because they just have rotten injury luck. And, we'll see what happens long term, but they're definitely not getting really fortunate this summer.
Any other thoughts on the defense?
Still Marco Wilson, top corner opposite Gonzalez, and then more Marcus Jones today in the slot. I think he said he was 100% too.
Different top slot every day this week.
Yeah, so but Marco Wilson's been consistent opposite Christian Gonzalez, so that's been interesting. But yeah, the slot keeps kind of rotating in and out there with the Joneses back.
Marcellus Dial, the odd man out at corner, kind of looks like it.
I think so.
I had Marco Wilson off the roster and Dial on, but as of right now, like you guys said, with Marco Wilson being there, Dial not playing great, I feel like that could be the case here.
Yeah, I thought he'd have like a solid preseason where it would have been tough to cut him, but it was kind of rough last week. Like sometimes you see a crazy stat line, especially for corners, and you're like, all right, let's see what actually happened. It was pretty rough. So I think they could cut him and still get him out of the practice squad.
All right, let's move on to special teams then. If we're good on the defense,
All right, we'll see you guys. No.
5 field goals. That's where Patriots beat takes over. 5 field goals today for Joey Sly, 4 for Chad Ryland.
Mike was the highlight of the special teams.
That's true. Mike got booed by half the roster during the field goal period. That's why he wants to leave. He doesn't want us to talk about it. Joey Sly, his first 50-plus miss of 52 yards. He missed for the first time in over a week. He went 3 of 5. Chad Ryland went 4 of 5. I'm not swayed just yet. I still think Joey Sly has been the hot hand. I still think that's the guy you go with, and you keep Chad Ryland on the practice squad in case things trend the wrong way. But I don't know. Is the door opening up, Brian?
Maybe a little. I would still go Sly, but I thought today, you just said it, me and Taylor talked about it yesterday, like today I think kind of reinforced the idea that maybe you should try to keep both of these guys around if you can, and one of them on the practice squad, which would probably be Ryland. Probably won't have a market elsewhere, so if he wants to come back, you can get him to the practice squad. But like Sly's been very good this summer, but career, he's like 81, 82%. You could get into the regular season and it could just kind of fall apart. So if you still have Ryland on the practice squad, I think that would be the best way to go about this. But yeah, I would still say, even with the 2 misses today, first one from 50+, I would say Sly's still the guy there in that competition.
Mike, Taylor?
I really just framed it as the kicker competition got interesting because it got super boring over the past couple of weeks. It was like, all right, yeah, it's Joey Sly's job. Let's move on. But still, one bad day. It was 2 misses. If it was 1 miss, I'd probably be like, yeah, whatever. 2 is, all right, that's not nothing. But I still think it's Sly's job to lose for it.
Well, let me ask you this, because again, Ryland had a miss today too, and it was a shorter miss. What we've kind of seen is, because the makes and misses are actually comparable overall, but Joey Sly has been better from distance. Saved the miss today. He's been better from distance, but he hasn't been as inconsistent that 30 to 40 range. Whereas Chad Ryland has actually been pretty consistent in that range, but it's when you get to like 45 plus that he starts to falter. Should they be more interested in the guy that's more automatic short, but limits your range, or the guy that gives you more range, but isn't going to be as consistent with the kicks you'd want to be automatic? Basically, the way the offense looks, should they want to expand the field goal range, or do they want to be more sure that when they manage to get in a field goal range, they're coming away with 3 points? What should be the primary focus?
I still, long story short, I think it's Sly, and I think you extend the field goal range, because even though Ryland was has been consistent short in camp, he wasn't very consistent short last year. And so, yeah, things changed and he's looked good so far. But I at this point, I still think it's Sly's job to lose. And I think the idea of getting Chad on the practice squad makes the most sense. Just like Brian said, I don't think he's going to be claimed by anyone. And I don't think he would rather sign elsewhere. I think he's comfortable as he is in New England to be on their practice squad. But as far as the consistency goes, as far as being in or out, I still think they should go with Sly and extend their range.
Taylor?
Just for the fun of the question, I would rather go with consistency than the big leg. But also, with Joey Sly has proven he can be an NFL kicker. Right. Chad Ryland has not. I think either way, Joey Sly wins because he's done it before at this level. So yeah, I still think that Chad would have to be literally lights out from here on out to really, have a strong hold of this job.
And so also, if you want to keep 2 around and have one of them on the practice squad, you're more likely to get Ryland not be claimed or have to go any other team than Sly has, because Sly's been around. He's more proven. And another team might pick him.
Well, he doesn't have to. He wouldn't get claimed. He would just.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
So you're
right. Okay.
I mean, you could work something out. You could work something out with both of them. Like, you don't have to have a kicker on the roster. Remember, they did that earlier.
Right, they could both get cut.
And then put them both on. Like, just tell Joey Sly, like, hey, we'll sign you to the practice squad. we're going to elevate you for the first 2-3 games, and then we'll work something out. And then, Ryland probably doesn't get claimed, and then he could go to the practice squad. So maybe you just have both of these guys on the practice squad. That opens up a spot for you to claim a pass rusher, tight end, tackle, something like that.
But you have to know if that's the plan. Like Joey Sly, if he gets a shot on a 53, he's going to take it. I don't think he's going to agree. Like, okay, fine, I'll sign with the practice squad. If somebody calls him, and as he should, and good for him, if somebody calls him, which I wouldn't rule out, he's going.
Something to consider: Chad Ryland still hasn't kicked a field goal in a preseason game. Could they potentially be trying to hide him? Because no one cares if you're making extra points. No one really, maybe kickoffs, I guess. Some people will care more than others. But it doesn't seem like a huge coincidence. And this is a competition that 2 games in a row, Chad hasn't kicked a single meaningful
Except they're alternating kicks. And it's just so happened that every other kick, starting with the second kick, is an extra point. And to that, I would say Joey Sly won the right to go first in camp based on the practices. And sometimes it's just the luck of the draw. Now, I do wonder if they get a field goal early against Washington, if they send Chad Ryland out there just to get him a field goal and say to hell with the rotation. But so far, the luck of the draw has been Joey Sly's gotten the better opportunities, and he's capitalized on.
Well, Chad led off the final drill today, which was a change. I know Joey Sly got the live one. They've rotated that, but they end with like 4 field goals all alternated, and Chad led that off. Yeah, he went first today.
Chad went first in that. After they gave Sly the 1-minute drill or the 2-minute drill.
So,
right. I mean, Sly's looked like the starter. They gave him the walk-through kick in the game too.
Yeah. But I would still like to see him get a field goal. It's been 2 preseasons now. He hasn't got a field goal attempt in the preseason, so it's been pretty crazy. But the other thing with that competition, Drake Maye just kind of laughed in our faces when someone asked us the kickoff rule and having to tackle impact the kicker competition, which something we talked about because Joey Sly is, jacked up and got involved and actually wanted the kickoffs the other night, but Gerard just kind of laughed at us and said that plays no factor into this decision.
He also said that Jelani Tavai has mentioned that he wants to just kick off so he can go down there and tackle.
Yeah, right.
So.
Hasn't Tavai told us that too, like himself too?
I think so, yeah.
We'll see. I mean, they have to have an emergency kicker. They got to have somebody there. I'm so surprised Behringer hasn't done any of it, but anyway, that's quick special teams thought. All right. Anything else? I think that pretty much covers it for the last 3 days.
Yeah, I think so. I think that,
all right, so let's close it on this. Let me ask you guys this. 3 practices left. Do we see Drake Maye get legitimate, not walkthrough, legitimate, full speed, all 5 starting on the offensive line, starting caliber receivers? Do we see Drake Maye take starter reps over the final 3 days of practice? Brian, I'll start with you.
I'm still going to go no. I don't believe it.
Taylor.
I don't believe it, but if he is like really, really good and lights it up against the Commanders, then I think there's a shot.
Mike.
Well, the practices are before the
What? Yeah, no, yeah, that doesn't. I'm saying once the game happens.
My bad, because we've been doing Thursdays and then after. So
once the game happens, they might practice Monday, or they won't practice Monday. They might practice Tuesday. Sometimes they do that, but it'll be closed. We'll take attendance. Right. That'll be it. So next 3 days are our last chance to see Drake Maye at the starter. So you're saying no, you don't think we're going to see it?
No, I don't.
I'm with you. Like, don't be ashamed. I think you're right.
I'm not ashamed. I'm upset.
Oh, okay, fair. Like we should. You're right. We should, but I don't think we see it. Mike.
Hey, shout out Reggie P.
Yes.
Shout out Reggie P in the chat, by the way. He just threw us a nice $9.99 for a new mic for me. Appreciate that, Reg.
Doesn't that just go right to Amit?
Yeah,
probably.
Yeah,
Amit just bought another drink on vacation.
Yeah, that's not going towards your microphone. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna say that he doesn't get the reps. I think after Thursday they would have done it already, and I think they're pretty stuck in their ways right now. So I'm gonna say that he continues to rep with the 2s throughout the rest of the week.
All right. Oh, we had one other thing we wanted to talk about. Are we doing it? Should we do it? Are we doing this?
Oh yeah, the punters.
Yeah. Okay. So we brought this up on a show a couple weeks ago. I don't think we're going to do the financial thing because there's too many moving pieces in legal stuff. But basically, and somebody remember to tweet this out from the Patriots CLNS account. We planned this horribly. Yes. We're going to do a fantasy football league, a Patriots Beat Patriots Daily CLNS fantasy football league, but only punters. That's it. There's going to be 8 teams. Everybody gets 4 punters. So that last guy you draft, you kind of have to keep track because he might suck and get cut. And you got to get his replacement. So where are we getting the 8 teams? It's 4 of us, and it's going to be 4 of you. So what you need to do if you want to join the league, tweet at Patriots CLNS. Somebody put a tweet up again. I know we planned this terribly. Somebody put a tweet up and reply to the tweet and tell us why you are the special team sicko fan that should be in our punters only CLNS fantasy league. You'll get to be in a league with 4 of us. We'll do the draft at some point next week after the final preseason game before the NFL season starts. And we'll see what happens. It's a fun thing we're going to do. Some people in the comments came up with this idea. I think it's a fun way for you guys to interact with us. So it's happening. If you don't have, if people don't have Twitter, what do we do? If you don't have Twitter, is there like a Patriots CLNS email?
I don't think so.
I don't know. Could they just leave a comment like on this video when it goes?
Taylor, what are you going to say?
I just said we should post on Reels.
Just leave a comment on this.
Leave a comment on this video and or on Twitter, and we'll get in touch with you, and we'll get you in our punter league. And that's the thing we're going to do. It'll be fun. I hope. Probably be a mess.
4 and go from there. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So have fun with that. Somebody tell Amit or Ricky or Jackson put a tweet up. Again, did not plan this well at all, but I wanted to make sure we got this out today so we have some time. But until the next one, for Brian Hines, Mike Kadlick, Tayler Kyles, I'm Alex Barth. New Patriots Daily tomorrow, Taylor?
Tomorrow. Are we doing the Pats Daily tomorrow?
Probably not. Probably not.
If we do it, it'll be a fun surprise. So,
all right. So probably
we haven't planned on them on the off days, and both off days something's happened. So maybe we will be live.
That's true. Yeah. So keep an eye out.
Probably something Wednesday. All right. I'll just wrap it up here. I'll talk to you guys next time. Bye.